Calling meeting to order at 7:02. Delaware City Planning Board agenda Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. First item of business, motion to accept the minutes of the March 5th, 2025 meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Joe Anderson,
Aye.
Alan Kahn,
Aye.
Denise Randall. Ken Castro
Aye.
and Tom Stevie.
Aye, motion carried. No correspondence. Old business 481A, Erie Materials, 48 Violent West. We have final site plan review for in addition to their existing building. We did get back information from the village and
They both said that for local determination.
so. With that, you're here, right? This will be pretty simple. So we got back from the county and village, and they gave local information, which means they're fine with it. So what we'll do is we'll do procedure right now, and then we'll give you your final approval for that, so.
Work with Greg on it.
We're sorry,
Work with Greg on it.
no, we're gonna do it right
I'll
now.
do it now. We'll approve it then. Okay. Okay. Vote on.
All right. The proposed action to create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations. That would be known, meets the current zoning regulations. For the proposed action result in the change in the use or intensity of the land. Yes, but it's a small impact, it's a small addition. Proposed action impair or the character or quality of the existing community. You know. Proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area. We know. Proposed action result in adverse change in the existing level of traffic or existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking or walkway. That would be no, this is not going to create any more truck traffic or anything. It's just a simple addition to the building. Proposed action would cause an increase in the use of energy. If it has to incorporate reasonable available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities. It's an open structure, no energies. Right. In there building. Proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies. You know, public or private wastewater treatment facilities. No. Proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological or architectural or aesthetic resources. No, it's in a manufacturing zone. It's been there for, that zone's been there for as long as I know. Proposed action result in change in natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora or fauna. Not near wetlands or anything. Proposed action result in increased potential for erosion, flooding or drainage problems. It's a small addition, shed roof. I don't see where that would cause. It's all sheet float off to the back of it. Proposed action create a hazard to the environmental resources or human health. And that would be no. Yeah, my back page of it.
Yes. Hold on.
I got one.
Yeah.
That was straightforward.
So with that. we're gonna check the box, like you said, we've determined that based on the information and analysis above and any supporting documentation, proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts.
I make a motion to approve what he said.
What we're gonna do is accept this as an unlisted accident under seeker. We determined that, no significant adverse environmental impacts. And this was an uncoordinated review, and there was it was an unlisted action.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion is second, any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Okay, Alan Curran,
Aye.
Amy Crandall. Ken Castro.
Aye.
Joe Atkinson,
Aye.
Tom Stevie.
Aye, motion carried. Now we have to approve the final site plan as submitted.
That.
And I need a motion for approval.
I move we approve, yes, the site plan at, 48 Valley Road for area materials.
Second.
And motion is second, any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Joe Atkinson,
Aye.
Alan Curran,
Aye.
Amy Crandall. Ken Castro,
Aye.
Tom Stevie.
Aye, motion carried. Night. Good night. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Short-term rental discussion will move to the end. On a new business referral from the town of Veteran Battery Energy Storage System. Local law number 1 of 2025. To regulate the installation, operation, and maintenance of such systems. Did anybody get a chance to look at this? Any chance? Any comments, or should I start?
Let her fly.
All right. We should probably be looking at the impacts on the town. There really is none. However, reading through this, there is some mistakes in the local law. Where it says International Building Code should be New York State Building Code. Definitions are, there's a bunch of definitions, but if you read through the local law, the definitions are referenced in the local law itself. So I'm not sure why they have definitions that are spelled out in the local law, what they mean or where they're at. I did print off the local law that through NYSERDA that they used. Basically, what they're doing is saying that they don't want large scale solar, or I'm sorry, battery systems.
Those are the bulk systems.
Yeah, so I want to know if something's permitted under the building and fire code. And they want to restrict it, does the does the state codes council need to approve the changes? That was me, my questions. Greg, did you look at this? Hello,
Yep, yeah, I heard you, Tom. Sorry, I clicked the wrong button. Yes,
Huh?
I looked at it. and I tend to agree with you. It seems like they just don't want anything on a big scale. But like you said earlier too, I don't think there's any real impacts to the town, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that law's as good as it could be or what they were intending to do. But it seems like, and this is a little bit of a side note here, but it seems like a lot of this is like a hot topic in the county right now. And these types of systems are coming, and it seems like Town of Veteran just wanted to get out ahead of it a little bit. But I mean, I get the intent of it, but I agree with you. There are some
Yeah. It looks like they took that nice sort of local law and just hacked it up.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
So. This said the tier 2 systems are not permitted, period. So. It's more of a code thing that. Greg and I looked at it. About those type of impacts,
So would any of these, would they be using any of these to connect to the solar farms? That's what these would be for?
or you could have a manufacturing facility. And they could bring them in for battery storage also. It could be solar or, they look like Conex boxes, and so you could have a, industrial occupancy or even a retail occupancy that has, a big place that has, solar, and they want to store it off and use it off peak.
Yeah,
And,
or pull from the grid during
Yeah.
off peak and then use it.
yeah, so,
But this is more, like say the solar farms that we have going on, would they come back to us and say, well, now we want to have,
very good.
Right.
so so we would probably need to have parameters set up here.
Parameters, yes, but for me, I wouldn't say, not permitted. There's
Yeah,
a whole section in the state building and fire code about dealing with these, and the states themselves has been up front and, ahead of the game and trying to make sure regulations are there to address it, so they're safe, so there's decommissioning plans, so there's operational plans and.
Very similar to our solar,
Solar, yeah,
our solar
plenty
plant.
more.
so I would guess where my thoughts would be, where would we allow? So say we wanted, again, it depends what kind of put in, a commercial or a bulk. So say in the solar farms we have going in now. What part of the town would we allow certain energy storage systems? So like I would, again, I'm gonna see one, am I gonna eventually see a bulk storage system out there too? So,
I guess I haven't thought about it for our town, where we would want them, but. Siting wise, we could have a manufacturing facility come in and part of their energy plan is they have 3 or 4 of these Conex boxes, and then you could have your solar farms could have them too, so. There's the regulations for siting these are usually distance between the Conex boxes, distance between property lines, things like that. And then educating the fire department, they have a response plan that, and also have, engineers look at everything for compliance. If
yeah,
you
so
look,
that was in those, that thing that you sent.
Right.
They would be involved heavily in the.
they're all worried about these catching on fire. Yes, there's thermal runaway. Catching on fire takes copious amount of water, but what you do is you don't go in and fight them, and they have a, a standpipe that's on the side of a building with a connection, you just pull up, there'd be a standpipe connection, and you just put water in it. until those people can get in there and take over. So,
I think the bigger thing I saw, I looked at some other information is if it did burn, the toxic fumes that come off of them.
well, it's funny because the toxic fumes that get you off, if you look at the house next door that catches on fire, be similar toxins. So it's not like, oh my God, this is all new. This, we got petroleum-based products in our homes. So yes, there is toxins given off, but when, other things burn, solar panels burn, similar toxins and maybe different quantities, but
So what you're saying is that big church fire in Elmira a month ago could have been far more toxic than one of these boxes going off.
well, I'm sure it was built before they had asbestos,
Yeah.
used in the place back in the 1800s, but
Weird,
That's-
that's all compounds and stuff like that.
um,
My question, I guess, would be is comparing to what our solar farms that we've approved. Or had basically going through here. How much can one of these things store? You're thinking about the acreage of
4 hours. It's, what is it, 80
4 hours,
kilowatts?
but how many,
80
how
kilowatt
big
hours.
how big a solar farm? How many would have to go into like a solar farm like we've been approved? That's,
Well, from what we heard at Hendy Avenue, when I was at that meeting at Hendy Avenue. And they said the biggest units that they can put in right now, was it the tier 2 is 80 kilowatt hours. And that'll only hold 4 hours worth of power.
right, but how much power does it take to charge it?
That they didn't
That's what I'm saying,
talk about that.
is how, I mean, I would assume they're gonna put the most efficient system with whatever, battery storage wise. So one of these boxes in the farm the size we got, 10 of these boxes the size we got,
The Hillcrest project, there were several boxes. I can't remember, there were 4 maybe. 4 units in that they took out. And what was interesting was our friends that are working out in Breezeport, putting that one in, they were there to observe the meeting too. And I talked to the one fellow, the younger guy, and he said, we're not gonna do this right away. I don't think they wanted to get involved in the controversy. Is the way he spoke. But,
Oh, that's just, my question would be. How big a facility would one of these things take,
they
like
didn't,
you say?
they didn't even get there. They didn't even get to that.
depending on the footprint you have, I believe in the fire code now. Greg, do they tell you how far apart they have to be based on the size, things like that, I think?
Yeah, they do. And as far as what you're wondering about, Skip, they're not really sized. So what those battery storage systems are, just like you said, when the grid is not operating to its, at its maximum as far as the power that's being delivered, there will be power that will be put to the battery storage. And then when the grid needs the power, the battery storage will release energy into the grid to make sure everything's level and, smooth with regards to power delivery. So the question of if, and these are just numbers, but say there's a 200 megawatt solar system, there wouldn't be, you have to have X amount of battery storage, battery energy storage systems for a system that big. If you want only one that stores 80 kilowatts, then you only have one. So all the energy from those solar systems wouldn't necessarily all be going to the storage. You'd have a hookup to the grid, and then you would have, the power that you're not using go to the batteries and just be stored. So, but yes, Tom, back to the fire code stuff. There's distances from battery storage, other battery storage systems. Yep, and there are distances from property lines. And then it goes into, you know, the systems that are needed at the site for fire departments and firefighting. So there's a couple NFPA sections too on battery storage, which are pretty interesting. But as far as sizing goes, it's pretty much, you know, how much do you want to store? I don't
Yeah.
think there's a set, you know, you have this many megawatts of solar, you need this many kilowatts of battery storage. It's however you want to do it. But there are times where, you know, you'll see these kind of like a power station, except there's battery energy storage systems just near a power station, which do the same thing. They'll collect energy when the grid is not at peak. And then when the grid is at peak and it needs more smooth power to make sure everything is powered, the batteries will, you know, emit their energy into the grid and keep everything working. So, you know, they're coming. So it's probably a good time for the town to start talking about the energy storage systems, because we have had one inquiry with regards to the town of Horseheads and how we handle that, but it's a short answer for our office now. It's those aren't allowed because we don't have a local law that, you know, allows them to be installed yet.
Carson Power at that Hendy Avenue meeting, they came out and said that they were looking at a site out in Forsyth.
We kind of got off track, but it was a good conversation, even though we're talking about town of veteran. I don't think we should go that extreme as veteran did, but we should control maybe location, you know, things like that, and then we could, something down the road we could look at.
With your expertise from the fire academy and everything.
I just,
Well, let's just say you have access to the material more than we do, so
well,
whatever, you know, your expertise is. I don't know what else.
Well, the thing I think too would be is to look into the state code and pick that apart a little bit more, a little better than what these guys did
it's,
and all that.
there's a model local law I sort of put out. And the village did something a few years ago. And it was pretty good, but the only thing it didn't do was give. There's something in their law, there wasn't something in their law about training the firemen. You know, anything to do with the fire department was missing from the local law. And this local law. Here that I sort of has, there's things about, you know, training, notifying firefighters of and things like that, and but yeah. Yeah, something that the town board might be willing to look at in the future, John.
I would assume they would.
I think we're probably gonna hear about it from Don Ziegler next Wednesday night. No, because he approached me last night.
Yeah,
What you should be aware of is that our current local law, which is a NYSERDA law, allows battery storage. That's part of the deal. So
But is there a size requirement of it? So it's.
it would be sized based upon the building code.
Building code, fire code, and distance between them and access. And,
Yeah.
All that kind of good stuff that.
All the rules are in that. It was a statewide issued law. So
Yeah,
it's
this
gonna be
is-
it's gonna be very generic.
It's about 7 years old. Yeah, I mean, it's.
You know, Tom, you sent me the links to the NYSERDA page with all the links to the different laws involved.
They have guidebooks, they have that out there. It's common, whether we like it or not. People they don't understand that they wanna ban it. It's like, one thing, you know, natural gas, you don't wanna frack, okay. You don't wanna put any more gas pipelines in. Natural gas pipelines, okay. But now down in Pennsylvania, they make it into compressed natural gas. And they're running it up by I-86 and I-88. And these tractor trailers that look like comics boxes. And they'll go to a manufacturing facility or facility to supplement the gas because they can't get the gas. Because there's no
Not enough service.
none of this, so
What do you mean by a Conex box?
shipping container.
A
Okay,
tractor, yeah,
okay.
back of a tractor
Yeah,
trailer,
okay.
basically with no wheels, yeah.
So, and a couple of them have flipped over already on I-88 in the last 5 years. And so they're,
It was funny, we were down in Pennsylvania over the weekend to play golf down near Selins Grove area. And I said, here we are in Pennsylvania, you know, which, you know, they still allow frack, they do all that. And going from where we were staying to the golf course, we must have passed 6 solar projects.
Wow.
And we were only going 10 miles.
all right, so good discussion for the future. So maybe,
Do we have to make comment back to them? Is that what they're asking?
That's what they're asking. Do you have anything that impacts the town of Forsyth?
nothing getting back to town
Nothing
horses.
that really impacts the town of Horseheads.
Oh, they'd be picking it apart for a while.
I mean, it's a start, but between this and that, this big one, I mean, we could write our own out of it.
The best thing you get, you steal from somebody else, so.
Exactly. Reinventing the wheels is one of the things I never wanted to do.
Just say, no comments about the law. No impacts on the town where it says. But could we just make a note? That 2 times in the law, it's referred to International Building Code. There should be New York State Building Code. And they have a lot of definitions in the code or in the local law that aren't even mentioned or referenced in the rest of the local law.
Taking something out, right?
Yeah. So,
Do we need a motion for that?
So it'd be local determination
Relation,
with these comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
So move.
Second.
call the roll, please.
Joe Atkinson,
Aye.
Alan Curran,
All right,
Amy Crandall, Ken Castro,
Aye.
Tom Stevens.
All right, motion carried. And that maybe we'll start putting something together. The town board will wanna. So basically what we're gonna do is. The large scale systems we maybe try to. Enhance our local law that we have for solar to address siting. You know, location setbacks, things like that. For
Includes battery storage.
battery storage, yeah. So,
or just not necessarily that the solar includes battery storage, but like they say.
Or if it's battery
It's
period.
just battery storage period, yeah,
Yeah.
because it doesn't necessarily have to go along with that.
But would battery storage other places be more a building code issue rather than a zoning issue?
could be right.
Commercial, yeah.
Yeah, it could be for sure. And in the town of Horses, there are a couple, I think there's 2. I don't know the addresses off the top of my head, but I think there's 2 residential battery storage systems that are installed, like a Tesla Powerwall type thing. Sort of like a backup generator, but you're not using fuel to power it. There's battery storage in the residential.
Yeah.
So, and those are pretty neat. And those are kind of a new thing that are coming along, but yes, those are all, you know, the rules and regulations for those are all in the residential code book, so.
Pretty cool though. You can put them in a room, you can put them in the garage,
Yep, they're pretty
Okay.
neat.
you know, they are neat, so. All right, anything else on that? Good discussion, no. So moving along, Referral from the town board, town board says rezoning request, James and Chi Dom, property located at 111 Mill Street, 640 Main Street, Bridgeport, want it rezoned from residence B to planned unit development. It must be you.
Yes.
So tell us what you're up to.
Well, we would like to put fifth wheel campers on the old ball field out there, for our children as times are tough. They're living with us in the school. And I think that it'll give them a place to ever they marry, move on, that they can come back to and call a place a home. Not something to rent out or be a rental property. I don't want to turn the place into a campground. I don't need the riffraff in the town or on my property. I think that that would probably stir it up. So that's what we're looking to do. 4 spots. We have a couple of drawings drawn up, one we've given to Greg and turned into you guys, and we've changed it since then. That we would probably like to do is actually utilize the driveway on the backside of the park. So we're off the main street and there's already a driveway there. If it helps with code, moving things forward. And also, we'd also like to use the ball field in future to hold flea markets, car shows. I'm in the cars a lot. As anybody that drives by, they don't know that. So, and just kind of give back a little bit to the community that's there. And, I just mow it and pay taxes on it. So I'd like to kind of utilize that field a little more than what it is being used for at this point. Tried to get the old fence down, kids were jumping over it and, taking that into effect, and there was some bleachers there, got that stuff down, just trying to clean it up. And the same with the school around there. Eventually, maybe, an ice cream store, just whatever I can do with the, there isn't anything like that there. So just kind of, hopefully add to it.
So while he's here, it's not a permitted use what he's requesting. What you get 3 acres of land, you need, has to get it rezoned to planned unit development. With that, it kind of takes it out of the regular zoning. And you can get more creative. Solitaire Crossing has a planned unit development. It can be as big as that, or it can be as small as 3 acres. So. With that, board members, any questions?
And what about sewer, water, there's people living in.
We have no provision in any place in the town ordinance for anyone to live in recreational vehicles, except in a mobile home park during, what is it, April 1st to November 1st or something, I think it is. That they can dedicate some of their spaces in a mobile home park for use with recreational vehicles. But as a permanent residence, there's nothing. That would be a complete change of zoning, or like I said, we'd have to deal with and plus, if you're gonna do all the other things, I don't know how many of those you can do without changing the zoning. It would probably be, you would want a PUD.
So mobile, using the RV campers. When does the Chemung County Health Department kick in for a, in their definition as a campsite? Have you checked that?
Yeah, it's more than 4.
More than 4?
More than 4. So as soon as you have 5 spaces, it becomes a campground.
How about water? How many hookups before it comes a community water system?
I think it's the same thing. I would have to look at that. I don't know off the top of my head. I did reach out. I haven't, I heard, I got back the answer for the camping spots, but I did not get an answer back yet for water. And I'm not sure what the Dom's plan for water out there would be. Maybe they can,
You're gonna have the building itself
yep,
plus 4 things, so that's 5.
yeah.
So
Well, plus you asked them for camping trailers, right? Did you ask them for camping trailers used as permanent residence?
I did not. I only asked for RV sites.
So we've got an arsenic problem out there with water. Have you had yours tested?
Yes, it's good.
It's good
Yeah.
because we're right next door.
It's right.
and
And
right
so
there.
our well for the actual school is actually almost in the creek bed. It's actually in front of the neighbor's house. It goes across the ball field, under the road. Yeah. But yeah, so it's been tested good. That's what, before we even purchased it, it was one of the, because we knew that that was a problem.
Because Dollar General next door, they had to do a whole bunch
They
of,
had to do a whole system.
and they had a tanker there for a long time, for 6 months, and so
Yeah.
they got it fixed so they could actually drink it, so.
Which is great. We have actually the original well to the school before they had that problem. It's actually in the front and I just put a decorative thing over it, but.
Okay,
We can take it down to 3 spaces. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was approved, we can take it down to 3.
I'm just saying, that's not the question.
No.
No, I was just saying,
It doesn't, the number of spaces won't matter. The question is gonna be full-time use.
Yeah.
That you're gonna use it year round. That's the issue
if it's
for
changed
this
to
board.
PUD, will that allow that to change?
Well, if it's part of the PUD, yes.
Yes.
But right now you can't use it for that, yeah, but the
But if
PUD would, if it's built into it, it would.
Okay.
But then that might bring up other health department problems too. Because it's full-time use. He's asking questions about,
Seasonal.
limited seasonal use.
Yeah.
The only place we have limited seasonal use is in a mobile home park. And those are required to be hooked up to water, sewer, and electric.
And these will be,
and you would have to get your septic system tested to see if it can handle the extra also.
Which it should.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have proposed it otherwise.
Theoretically, right?
Yeah,
well, that's things we have to ask about too.
Yes.
You just can't assume that it,
Yeah,
because school hasn't been there, how many years now?
Yeah,
15,
forever.
20, 15?
yeah, I don't, yeah, well, yeah.
The school hasn't been in a school.
Oh, not a school, no. It's a residence
Yeah.
now.
But then again, where is that septic system for that? Is that in that field or is it?
so it ties into the field, yeah, it occupies, yeah.
How are you hooking up electric?
There's the existing electric that I had go through that's actually from the ball field. It's on there.
And the one photograph, it's where it says the pool.
Okay.
Or it says, what does it say right there?
So all
Oh,
Yeah,
four would hook up to that
yeah,
pole?
yeah.
I would assume they have to run
Yeah,
They can't be hooked up directly to the
No.
pole. They have to be, you
Yeah.
have to run a surface off of
That's
that
correct.
and then branch out from there.
Yep, 100%.
And right now you're talking about 4 driveways, but you say you're not gonna, don't wanna.
So original plan was off of Mill Street.
Yeah.
But I also own the driveway that runs down parallel to it's now there, this is an old, but we actually own that, so I thought, well, if there's a issue with actually coming off with having driveways coming
Right.
off the main road, that would eliminate. That we already have that drive, so why not utilize that in coming in?
That's to the back of the,
Yeah, I can.
yeah.
So this is kind of what we just. So we started here, but this was actually rode into the ball field originally.
Okay, all
And
right.
so that would eliminate coming off of the main. I can leave that up there. Yes. Just something else here.
This one else.
Yeah, I think what his plan is to turn them and come down this way.
Yeah, put them this way, because this road here used to come
This
back
needs
to
to
go
be
hard for the
curved.
ball field, this is
Yeah.
the back
Because
fence.
it's
So
otherwise
we want to
it
get
gets
it
created.
here
And that's what
versus off, you know,
Yeah,
it might help.
Well, also for future activities, it would leave the field more open and visible.
Yeah, you'd have more street frontage on Mill Street
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would be, so for, you know, activities and stuff.
for any kind of activities like that.
So how many people would live in each of these RVs?
Well, they're all single right now, so they're young.
No kids?
One daughter has a 2-year-old.
I would think eventually they're gonna have to be moving out of there because they're not gonna wanna. You would only hope that they would.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
We wanna live in an RV
yeah.
all your life.
yes.
Yeah. I'm not thrilled with us approving. Or recommending approval for an RV or camper being used year round. Probably sets a precedence on things too.
It also sounds to me like we have too many unanswered health department questions before we can,
got some, yeah.
before we can,
PUD, so if it's a PUD, it has to be 3 acres. And the property where you're proposing this and the other is not 3 acres. So you have to include
Yes.
across the street.
Correct.
So your narration's gonna have to include the whole property and what you're proposing. At that point, and then if you're proposing uses beyond residence B, which you are. For then you need a narration on that also.
Would anything change if they actually went to a mobile home as opposed to an RV?
Then it'd become a mobile home park, yeah,
According to our regulations and
yeah.
which. Requires. Pads, things like that.
Mhm.
Um,
In a size, 40 feet deep, long and that, yeah.
So our action, if any, would be today to.
I mean, I think we're just here to discuss it anyway, to see where we're.
Is this a way application conference or preliminary proposal or?
Yeah, basically, I think a pre-application
Conference.
conference.
so what do we need, a more detailed narrative of what's gonna happen?
Yeah, need more detailed narrative and then, yes, to cover the building, cover the other stuff you're talking about.
Septic, water, health department.
And then those things are gonna have to come along at some point with it. What will happen is, if it comes to this board to review. And make recommendation, it has to go back to the town board because this is a rezoning
Yeah.
at that point in
Okay.
time. The town board will hold a public hearing. Notifying all the neighbors within, what, I think 500 feet for
Yes.
rezoning.
Right.
And they will hold the public hearing. Once they pass it, the rezoning, then it comes back here for the final development plan.
Okay.
So you need a plan, but you don't need a final plan.
Okay.
Okay, so if you find out you need to put in additional septic and stuff like that, you don't need the designs and stuff for that,
Okay.
just to get it approved. You don't have to try not to, we don't, try not to make you spend the money till you know you're spending it for a purpose. at that
Correct. Yeah.
point.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's not just you, but yes, that's hopefully the way it's designed, so that, it gets you through this.
Yeah, I
process
mean,
first.
just coming here tonight was just to bring it to you guys' attention. This is what we would like to do
Right.
and. You know, it'd be less of a I guess lack of a better term, cartoonish draw, you know what I mean? It would be more,
Yeah,
but needing to know if there was even something on the table. You know, and then now we can know where to go, health board and all that, and get those answers. I can work with Greg and kind of say, you know, where we
Right.
need to go, get the answers that we, you know, you guys are asking for, and we need to know as well.
the application, the preliminary proposal. Yeah, what you would basically look at is under here is in the plan unit development 204-87 is the preliminary proposal. And those are the things you'd need to then get it started at
Okay.
that point in time.
And is that the same thing for the proposal for the bed and breakfast on the school side?
Yeah, everything will be the same.
Okay, I just wanted to.
Yeah, it can be, it can all be part of the same thing.
Okay,
And for the
Because
most,
basically, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but because they're asking for it, the whole area would have to be included as a PUD, so that whole thing
Yes.
needs to be.
well, it has to be at least 3 acres to do whatever
Right.
they want to do that's outside the
So
zoning. right?
everything that's included in that PUD needs to be
Yeah,
verbiage.
yeah, even if it's something you don't, you know, even if it's on your wish list,
put it on there.
I'd put it in.
Okay,
Because, you know, then at least you're not coming back and going through the same process to get it amended.
I
at some
understand.
point.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, but it's easier to put more stuff on it and not do it than it is to have to come back to the board every single time,
all right.
which you would anyway. You'd have to come back, but it's,
Right,
There's no action, we're just gonna refer back to the town.
No, we're not referring, no, they're already referred, so now they're,
Okay.
this is preliminary application. They should look now for this is pre-application conference.
Okay,
Now they're looking to submit their preliminary proposal.
okay,
So no action statement.
No,
Okay.
yeah, we have. no-
Would-
okay.
just to throw something out. Would it be better to put concrete pads underneath these things?
Well, that's part of that's gonna be your discussion at that point in time. You know, when you start approving, because part of the plan of development is also a site plan, so. You know, he's proposing things to do, you know, we're talking parking, that type of thing.
yeah, yeah,
But you got a leg up on that because of the school.
right.
School
A little
stuff.
bit, a little bit.
So,
The other thing too is potentially, how long do you think they would stay in those things? I mean,
We're estimating maybe a year.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 at the most, and then it was more of an emergency situation. It wasn't like forever.
yeah, I would assume that you're, like I said, you're hoping that they get it. They're
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
feet under them and get them out.
Yeah.
yeah.
well,
100%.
But then,
Yeah,
one of the unsaid things, and I wanna make sure it's out so they don't get discussed, and then if you wanna talk about it, you talk about it. You got a huge school,
Yes.
why the hell are they out there? Okay, so no, don't answer, but you gotta remember that that's gonna be.
yeah, you don't want my answer on record.
Okay, that's gonna be here, okay?
Well, the bed.
I mean.
Yeah, well, the bed and breakfast for the reason, like I'm looking out for my future and there's gonna
Yeah.
come a point where I'm not gonna be able to throw hay bales or, you know, that kind of crap, you know what I mean? And do
Yeah.
construction, so. Hence the ice cream store, I think I can fill a cone, you know what I mean? The bed and breakfast, you know, my wife makes a damn good meal. So that kind of stuff, so looking to utilize 17,000 square feet, why I bought it, I couldn't tell you, but we are in it, so.
You're
You know,
there.
there we are, so let's utilize that to make it pay back for the taxes and the things, that kind of thing going forward. The campers were a cheaper way to get the kids in their own way. Here you go, here's your
Safe.
start. Now, you know, when you buy your own house or whatever, but we all know people fall on hard times. Well, when I'm doing the bed and breakfast, you're not coming back to your old bedroom.
Right,
right,
You know what I mean? That's just, I've moved on, so rent, we all know is anywhere from 800 to 1,600 for, it's ridiculous.
It is.
And then you got utilities and everything else on top of that, so if I can, otherwise I just burn $40 in gas to mow this damn field every year. You know, I put goats out there or something, you know what I mean?
No.
no, you would.
Not that.
No, I don't want that for anybody.
Yeah.
So in the proposal would show us how they're gonna hook up water, how they're gonna
Yeah.
run electricity to it, how the sewer's gonna be.
It would show you where, that would more be the final development plan.
Okay.
Well, first, they want to get it rezoned so that they have the opportunity,
Yeah, we gotta find out from
You know.
health boards
you know,
what we can do.
yeah,
And that's what you're looking for me to bring back to you guys the next round.
yeah. Look at that preliminary proposal, what you
Yeah.
need to have there.
Okay,
And then when you start looking, you'll see the final development plan, and that's gonna be everything. But that gets, we gotta get you to the rezoning.
thank you. Yeah,
We wanna do this, we wanna do this, we wanna do this, we wanna do this.
Yeah.
You know, that's the wish list at this point in
Absolutely.
time. If that doesn't get approved, well,
or,
yeah,
yeah,
you know, or part of it does, or whatever. Then
well, thank you guys.
We know why. What are we doing?
Well, we gotta get the information there and then we go back to the
Go
other.
back, get back to Greg and,
Yeah.
when's the next meeting?
That's,
First Wednesday in May.
Have my calendar on it.
Or something like that.
May 7th, I think.
Yeah,
May 7th is the
May
first
7th.
Wednesday.
Is that, yeah, so basically the Monday, a week before that.
Okay.
Make sure Greg has.
Greg has everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Yep, and like I said, I've reached out to the county too and haven't heard, so I'll help you guys along with that process and contacting the environmental health department.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Greg.
thanks, Greg. I'll be in again this week.
Yeah, no problem.
I like him.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
I like Greg, yeah.
He's great.
don't say that about a code enforcement.
Yeah,
I like him too.
there may be times you don't like us, but we hope you like us more than you don't like us.
Greg, I didn't like you, that's why I recommended they hire.
Well, there's 3 of us too. I can always make one of them be bad for a while and really make you mad, and then I'll be good guy. So
Bad cop, good cop. My boss used to play that game all the time. Guess what one I got?
Uh, Things I missed, Greg.
After.
yeah,
2080 days. Moving on, so we're good with you?
Thank you. Are we
Coming in.
allowed to go?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, we're gonna make you stay here all day.
oh, listen, some
Thank
stuff.
you.
It's pretty neat.
My uncle used to say soft ice cream is one of the best industries to be in. You sell an awful lot of air.
Yeah,
That and liquor stores.
I would love
Liquor
that up in
and bars.
Bridgeport. I would love that.
Well, we went to.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Nice meeting you guys.
Nice to meet you as well.
Get our due diligence done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Short-term, short-term rental.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, yeah.
So when I was up there looking at that building today, I see they knocked out part of the wall and put a big overhead door in
Oh, did they? I didn't
Yeah.
even notice.
on the.
yeah.
side.
The gymnasium is their garage. 'Cause
Okay,
it had an existing concrete floor, so the gym is their garage. And the school side, it's really, really nice in there. You'd be shocked. I was shocked the first time. Yeah, and they've been, they've been really good. The relationship with our office started off a little rocky, but they have since, anytime they touch anything in the school, they're coming in to ask. So they've been, and that's kind of where the whole thing led to them asking for the PUD, was because they were under violation for having people, and now that we know it was family, living in fifth wheels last summer.
no,
So,
yeah, there's a
you know,
couple out there now on the field.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're empty. They're
Yeah.
empty. But that's kind of in conversation and trying to work with them and seeing how much land they had and potentially having some more ideas about what they wanted to do with the field. Kind of led us to where we are because the field is residence B, the school is residence B. So other than building, subdividing that school field and building houses, which they don't want to do, they really can't do anything with their big fields except have a big backyard. So they're it's nice for someone in Breezeport to try to do it the right way.
Yeah.
So
For all this for, basically a year, this seems like an awful lot of work on their part to, just for a year or two.
well, if they don't do it,
How are we gonna limit those
And
things to,
some things are unenforceable. Okay, you own it, your family can live there. Are we gonna go up and check?
yeah, exactly.
yeah, and I think part of them wanting to do it this way is they're sick of getting a violation from us every couple of months for camping in the residential B zone is not an approved use. So it's a tough one, but I give them credit for trying to head in the right direction anyway. So we'll see what they do, and we'll help them along the way. Our office will, and then you'll see it again. So
All right, so up the.
And yeah,
Verbiage.
yeah, I looked at a lot of short-term rental things and they're all a zoning ordinance, so 6 or 8 pages of all this stuff, which is usually the municipal reaction to something new, like battery storage, just to put a big shit thing together. So I said, why don't we just do it as a special permit procedure? It'll come here, it'll be special permit, plus it'll require a site plan, so we got enough going on there. A lot of the issues that deal with these things are building code issues, things that are in there with regard to fire operation, those type of things, how you gotta have things. And then plus, they sort of put in these rules and regulations, and if you looked at some of these things, you see them all in the ordinance. And that's why I put in number 9. We can put together rules and regulations every once in a while if we want, and even on a yearly basis, when the town board looks at their fees and that type of thing. If we want to change these things, so we can change them easily without having to go through another local law or another, this type of thing. And we figured a lot of the items that we might be concerned with, for the most part, might be taken care of by their agreements with Airbnb and the other places, what they require them to have and do, right, Greg? I mean, we to deal with those issues.
yeah. So like the partying and stuff like that, that's really been clamped down by Airbnb. And if you do get caught, renting a house and then inviting 30 people over to throw a party, you won't be able to ever rent a house again. So through them, right. But yeah, you're right, John. A lot of that stuff is handled in the residential code with regards to, a lot of it kind of follows bed and breakfast stuff, but yeah, I think that's a good way to build it into the special permit. It makes sense.
Do we have here anywhere about fire inspection?
Yeah,
Talked and said that it's a normal fire inspection one time every 3 years, right? So
Well,
that's,
Probably put it in there because to be a rental, And to inspect it according to the state code, it's gotta be 3 or more units. So anything less than that, we gotta make sure it's in our law. Correct?
I would agree with that.
We might be a 10. Subject to, triennial inspection.
But I'll have to look. I don't know if you begin to have the occupancy be a transient one, if it changes and we can inspect that's a real good question, Tom. I'll take a look at that and see.
It's an
Yep.
owner occupied, so not transient. Right?
No, we're not really writing this, then some of them may be owner occupied.
They
But
may be, and they may not. Like you have the one in Birdland there that has, or Briarcliff, that is a single family home, not owner occupied. And it's an Airbnb all the time.
by you too, right?
I would just as soon as put number 10 in, but subject to triennial inspection in compliance with the New York State Fire Prevention, New York State Property Maintenance Code and Fire Code applicable provisions.
I think that's perfect. Yeah, that's a
The
good
other-
idea.
So in some of the ordinances, they defined a dwelling unit as the bedroom. So if you have 3 bedrooms, you have 3 dwelling units. If you have 3 bedrooms and plus the couches in the living, you're able to pull out, you have 4 or 5 dwelling units, so.
But they're not renting them separately.
They could be.
That.
No.
also need-
That kicks it to a rooming house. We wouldn't allow that. Yeah. Especially if, you get to a rooming house part where bedrooms and stuff have their own locks, or, you get a front door key with a code and then you get another key for a bedroom. And we
Well,
would,
But remember, that doesn't fit under here.
correct,
Less than
That's
30 days, it's 30 days or less.
right.
So,
I just don't want that. I can put that in.
so just check on that, so if we have a dwelling unit issue, we'll require, but I thought you said up in Watkins, they had to be inspected under the building code.
Yes, we did. And yeah,
then-
that was,
Like a bed and breakfast type of
Yeah,
setup.
and Dick's, they gotta be inspected too.
yeah, yep. They were inspected every 3 years, or if the permit holder changed.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think we want to get into yearly inspections for these aren't that special.
I would agree.
We don't have to inspect a motel every 3 years, why?
Right, and if there is down the road, we can change it.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
And every 3 years, multi-families every 3 years, so.
Yeah.
It fits into that.
yes.
What if there is complaints on the Airbnb? So my biggest thing, I have an Airbnb, is I rent to 6 people and there's 10 people in there, and then you get complaints about noise. So what if can their permit be revoked if there is a certain amount of complaints at that unit?
I wouldn't put that in an ordinance, that'd be rules and regulations, so I think we put that on the side and say, okay, we want to deal with these type of things too. And I assume that's a good idea, yeah.
Some of that must be handled by their affiliation with
Yeah.
Airbnb.
But there's nothing that says they have to affiliate to rent these out. They could go
On their own.
on their own,
Yeah.
so we
We should-
sort of have to be aware of that at that point in time.
And under the rules and regulations, again, we could add, subtract, or modify as needed as we go through.
Yes.
And you've got complaints about, noise, maybe numbers, you say 5 noise complaints in a year that, the permission gets rejected, and whatever, I guess. haven't thought through, but
So my question is. If the rules and regulations are not part of the code,
They are,
they are,
it says, yeah,
okay,
it says right number 9.
all right,
part of the
okay,
code.
okay.
so you don't have to amend your local law or your zoning, you just. Kind of like building permit fees, you amend them from time to time,
Mhm.
usually by year, and it's attached to that law, so.
As far as reinventing the wheel or something like that, you could use a template that one of the corporations use. As a start,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
or our resident expert with them.
Yeah, so I think more importantly, when we discuss this, won't necessarily be this as such, but it's gonna be the rules and regulations. What are we going to expect
More specific.
at that point in time?
How would we notify? In other words, we're gonna make this a regulation. How do you notify the people in the town? I know we posted in the newspaper. But who's reading it? Like, how would the people find an Airbnb? How would I know this new regulation came?
Well, how would you know if anything came out? You don't. It's
yeah,
just,
I wanna do this, I wanna call it.
it's just part of life. I mean, yeah,
He catches them.
when they come. And that's really it, you start seeing
You see
what,
an ad, you see cars parked in front of houses, you get.
the same way they can look. Amanda's done that research for us at time is looking on the sites to see what's being rented where. And we do the same things with houses that are listed. The assessor's office looks at new listings all the time to see where things are, but
And that's great, I'd be sitting in the office for a contractor and. I go to him, you ever remodel a garage? You do a bedroom? Oh, I've never done that. And we have his Facebook page up and he's.
Oops.
Yeah,
Facebook's
Yes.
great.
You just can't believe it. Yes, you can.
The thing is, the internet, it just never goes away. It's
Yeah.
always out there.
That's how I caught, July Tidings renting out, they had a Facebook page. And I had even a website. And I made copies of it. So I had that, so that's how that started, so. Yeah, and. Then you got neighbors.
okay. I'll pull some of the other ordinances and give you, because like I say, they've written everything as a new ordinance, and I just don't really want to deal with that. Generally, the other thing is parking. You might be able to sleep 10, but where are you gonna put them?
Yeah,
Outside at this point in time. That was, from my viewpoint.
Mm.
The other issue would be animals. Do animals count as? Everybody treats them like people, so do they count as people if they come in, if they have anything?
people like pigs live in their homes.
Probably not.
Usually when people list these, they list them as animal friendly or not, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah, usually.
I know the ones that Wendy and I had used have specified whether or not they were animal friendly or not.
yeah.
So,
We'll ask for their insurance to show that there's a rider for short-term rental. Oh, the other thing I was gonna ask is, some of these ordinances limit the number of permits allowed in a municipality. I didn't think about that if we were Watkins Glen, I might say, maybe we should do that. But I don't think we're gonna have we're gonna have a huge issue with, up and down the street.
so I was reading this last week, Ocean City, which I go there a lot. You tried to buy a place down in Newburgh County. That these short-term rentals are overrunning the town down there, and all the owner occupied places are going away in a certain district. What they did is made their ordinance so there's a minimum rental of 5 days. So
Yeah,
to discourage them from weekends and stuff like that.
just weekend
Yeah,
stuff.
so 5 days.
Wow.
So it was,
That's a hell of a, that's hard to, that's
That's-
tough
yeah.
to believe. I
Yeah.
mean. Cause if I went down there and I was only gonna stay 3, I'd pay him for 5. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Chances are, if I liked it,
Usually, now, like when Wendy and I have used them, they've, like Airbnbs, they tell you. You know, what's open when and that kind of thing, so, you know, I don't know, but nobody has ever put. Down in Virginia anyway, and North Carolina, nobody's ever put anything on us where we had a minimum stay.
minimum stay.
And usually we go for like long weekends.
Yeah,
so the short-term
you have a
rentals,
minimum?
Yeah, because otherwise they treat it like a hotel. And they trash it,
Oh.
so, yeah.
You know, my father had a house in Sun City in Arizona. He had a house down there when somebody would say, Lou, you know, can I use your house? He'd say, yeah, you can, go ahead. And he'd say, well, I'll pay you for it. And he said, no, you're not paying me for it. He says, you can go, I don't care, you go. And they said, well, why can't we pay you? He says, because if you pay me for it, you treat it like yours. If I let you use it, you treat it like it's mine.
oh my, yeah,
Wow.
smart man, wow,
so
that's, yeah.
up in. Other areas that like toward the lakes and stuff, they're doing short-term rentals, they're doing. Mini tiny homes, they're doing. These GERTs things, taking their detached garage and putting apartments above them. Are we gonna have to address that? Because somebody could have a house and all of a sudden now they want a small tiny home that they could rent out in the woods to.
Well, let's put it this way, could they do that anyway? As part of our zoning? We don't let it, it's gotta be attached, it can't be a separate building, we've already gone through that a couple of times.
Yep.
At this point, so,
And then a dwelling unit has to be 750 square feet
yeah,
with regards to the zoning. A tiny home is 400 square feet or less. Or maximum 400 square feet. So the short answer for that is no.
they couldn't do it anyway.
They
But
couldn't do it anyways.
Fill in a garage, you know, you fill in a 2-car garage or do something like that. Again, it has to be attached, that type of thing. You know, you could have 2-family in residence A and below.
B. Yeah.
So.
So yeah, anything that would be detached would be no. And if you, and you know, you would need a building permit to make a separate or second dwelling unit in a building that portion of the building is attached. And then, so yeah, we would be very aware of what you were doing, and we would make sure that nothing unattached for sure.
Yeah.
What would stop, if we approve this PUD for the RVs, what would stop them from making those Airbnbs after the kids move out?
Well, I think that's gonna be our hard issue. Is putting this into a PUD and then figuring out how are we gonna say this at this point?
I can manage it,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's
You know,
gonna be.
if they don't mention it and then they do it, they're in violation of the PUD.
Yeah,
If they don't mention
But-
it in their narrative.
yeah, but.
Yeah, and they've been, and I'll be honest, right from the jump with them, they have specifically stated many times with regards to the RVs, and again, you can only believe so much, but they have mentioned they do not want anything to do with anyone pulling in an RV that's not their family or renting any of those spaces out to anyone who they don't have complete control of. So, you know, take that for what it is, but they have mentioned that many, many times. They do not want to deal with the public with regards to those RV spots. So,
Okay, well, we'll just see what they,
What's
yeah,
in the state legislature, and it's been sitting there for a number of years and has never made it out of committee, is a proposed legislation to override all zoning ordinances in the state of New York to allow people to put an additional dwelling unit on their property.
yeah,
And they're trying to do that to expand the availability of housing.
yeah, what's the,
That's been there quite a while, but it's never gotten out of committee,
yeah, I forget the buzzword they use for those,
like
the,
ADU or something like that.
yeah, that's it, ADU, additional dwelling unit, yeah,
Accessory Dwelling unit, yeah.
yeah,
5 acres.
ADUs.
You see that, I see that on, when television, they're California.
is that it for now,
all-
folks?
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second,
Call the roll, please.
Joe Atkinson.
Aye.
Randall. Diane Castro. Ron Curran.
Aye.
Tom Stevens.
Motion carries.
Guess you're ready to go, huh?